Morning, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Hope y'all are doing okay today. So, I gotta admit, there's something that's surprising to me that this isn't more of a thing than it currently is. Plug-in hybrid vehicles. So, for those of you that don't know, there's four basic types of vehicles. You can have internal combustion engine, whether it's gas, diesel, hydrogen, liquefied natural gas, whatever. Propane. You've got electric, hybrid, where the engine can turn on and off, and you've got battery assist and regenerative braking and all that. And then there's also plug-in hybrid. You get a bigger battery than you do with a hybrid, although quite a bit smaller than a battery electric vehicle. And then you plug it in at the house at night. You get your anywhere from ones that have been produced so far 20 to 50 miles of pure electric driving. And then when the battery starts running low, the engine kicks on and it drives very similar to whatever vehicle it's based on that's a normal hybrid. Ford C-Max, Toyota Prius did it, Ford Escape, Ford C-Max Energy, a few others. But I had an idea. Whoa, dear. That's a big one. I had an idea about making a plug-in hybrid vehicle that might even be a little better than what's currently being offered. One of the things to consider is, okay, take my little Focus that I drive around. It has a 123 horsepower, 1 liter, 3-cylinder. It makes almost 150 foot-pounds of torque. I forget the exact number. Now, while all that's fine and dandy for cruising up and down the interstate, in truth, for most just running up and down the road, you only need 20 to 40 horsepower in most vehicles to maintain your speed. The only time you need anything more is for acceleration. So the idea that I've had rolling around in my head is making a plug-in hybrid car that, say, has 50 to 80 miles of battery electric range, and then having a small 30 to 40 horsepower internal combustion engine as a range extender. Now, there are plenty of reasons to build something like that. First off, you don't have the range anxieties inherent in a pure battery vehicle. You're not tied to charger networks or working chargers. I've watched several people that have road tripped in electric vehicles on YouTube, and sometimes they get to a charging location and chargers are out of order or all full up, or it's out of their network, wrong connectors, things like that. So you're not tied to a charging network if you were attempting to travel any distance, and you don't have range anxiety. Another perk to that, the heaviest single component in a battery electric vehicle is the battery. They're seriously heavy. In the Hummer EV, the battery weighs almost around as much as my entire car does. So if you have a smaller battery, you get less weight. Also, when you have just a little piddly 30 to 60 horsepower internal combustion engine, you cut down on the weight of the engine as well. But if I were going to design something like that, I'd do a little different. Instead of having that engine connected to the front wheels or the rear wheels at all, I'd have it simply running a generator. Now, there's several reasons for that. If you have a engine that's a generator, you don't have to worry about emissions and power production and noise, vibration, and harshness at all points throughout the rev range. Generators are designed to start, spin up to a specific engine RPM and just kind of chill there. And when you have an engine that stays running at a static RPM, you can tune a lot of how the engine's going to perform based on that 1 RPM. When you have an engine that can spin anywhere from 1,000 revs, or even move the vehicle at 1,500 revs, going down the road all the way up to 6,000, it has to be able to make power anywhere in that rev range. It has to have an acceptable level of NVH anywhere in that rev range, and it has to meet emissions anywhere in that rev range. Whereas if you have an engine that starts and then immediately spins up to, say, 2,500 RPM, you don't have to tune it, as broadly speaking. You can have it tuned to run at a specific RPM, set everything up for that, and you can actually get more efficient picking a static RPM, and when you get more efficient, you get cleaner. And so I would have it where this engine's going to turn on, charge the battery, shut back down, turn on, charge the battery, shut back down on a long trip. And if I were building it my way exactly, I actually wouldn't even use a traditional gasoline piston engine or a diesel. I would use a smaller jet engine. Now, before you go thinking you're going to melt everything behind you and all this and that, Chrysler Corporation, or Chrysler Motor, built a Chrysler turbine car back in the 60s as a prototype. There's only a handful of them still in existence. Pretty cool car. It was under the body, it was all off-the-shelf components that Chrysler had. It used brakes and steering and suspension off of I think it was the Dart or the Duster. It used a modified transmission that they already had in production. The only thing that was really special about it was the body and the engine, and they had actually rigged up a set of heat exchangers inside the engine compartment that pulled the majority of the exhaust heat out of the exhaust before it got discharged out the tailpipe. And it was no hotter than a typical vehicle exhaust of the day. And the only reason that I would use a jet engine is thermal efficiency. Now, thermal efficiency is essentially a way of saying how much energy that's in a fuel, whether it's gasoline, diesel, whatever, an engine's capable of extracting. And the crazy thing is, in most gasoline engines, you're not getting over 40%, and if you are, it's not by much. So you're wasting a lot of energy to just heat loss. Jet engines can hit up to 70% thermal efficiency, meaning the majority of the energy in the fuel is being turned into useful mechanical energy. So have just a little jet engine that makes somewhere between 30 to 50 horsepower. Driving down the road, the battery starts to run a little low. This jet engine comes to life, charges your battery, and then shuts back down. Just a thought on if I were building a hybrid or electric vehicle, what I would do. And if you had say a 30 kilowatt hour battery in a vehicle like this, Ford Focus, something compact, it's not a huge amount of weight, and you can lose a lot of weight by going with a smaller jet engine. And also you're losing the transmission, you're just going to wheel motors. I think it would be interesting to see what kind of efficiency you could achieve with something like that. I also think it would be interesting to see the performance of something like that, because you could have some pretty powerful motors take off like a shot leaving the starting line, because even though you got a small battery, you've got an engine that's going to recharge the batteries every so often. Another thing I like about that is you wouldn't have to worry about battery degradation quite as much. That's one of the things that has a lot of the slower adopters to EVs slightly worried, is battery degradation over time. And the thing that would be cool about something like that, kind of a plug-in hybrid, if you will. The thing that would be cool about something like that is, okay, if you lose 10% of your range on a 250 mile rated battery, well, depending on how far you take that vehicle, that could end up getting a little close to how far you might actually drive sometimes. Well, crank that up to 20%, you might not be able to make it all the way there. You got to remember, that's 50 plus miles. Well, if you had a range extender, if you lose that 20% in range, so if you lose that 20% of battery electric range, so I've got a range extender, it'll start up when the battery runs flat, and I can keep on trucking on down the road. Just a thought, something that I think would be, interesting to see. I just don't know if any automakers would actually make it. Also, another thing I don't know is I don't know what the tailpipe emissions would be like on a small jet engine when compared to a more traditional gasoline engine. I don't know if they would pass emission standards, but being that thermally efficient, you'd be extracting a huge amount of energy out of gasoline or whatever you decided to run this thing on, because jet engines will run on anything that will burn. You can run them on tequila, alcohol, corn ethanol, diesel, gasoline, kerosene. They'll run on anything. So, just something that I had the idea of, but I don't know if it would pass emissions. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in. I will catch y'all next time.